Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ number 36, the knife series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. Talking about stainless steel on survival knives this week, my most expensive knife that I regularly used, and some other cool stuff too. Let's get into it. Thank you everyone for your questions for this series. I love going through them and picking things out to answer. If you want a chance for one of your questions to be answered, just leave them in the comments section below so we can keep this series rolling. First question this week comes from Malcolm. It says, I have a CRKT Crawford Casper, my favorite folder until the joint seemed to need lube. On reassembly, the blade was far off center even though I took great care to realign it. Is there a large folder under about 130 that is rock solid on reassembly, consistent realignment without careful tensioning of the pivot screw, etc.? Yes, I got one here for you. It's not quite as large as the Crawford Casper, but it is another CRKT. It's the Bonafide by Ken Onion, coming in about $100. And if you're looking for like the best blade materials and such, you can get better stuff than this in that price range. But for a knife that is easy to take apart and reassemble without having to really fiddle with things, the field strip mechanism, especially these new Gen 2 field strip models, are the way to go, like hands down. The thing I've always been impressed about with these is the centering is always pretty darn good to begin with. They flip nicely, but then when you take them apart and put them back together, every single time they've been right dead nuts on the money, exactly the same as when you took it apart. A lot of times when you're taking apart a folder with pivots and back spacers, barrel spacers, and that sort of thing, they can be a little bit finicky. Some are, some aren't. But when you go to put things back together, it's not just the pivot screw. If the barrel spacers are tensioned too much on one side than the other, even that can throw off the centering a little bit. So it can be a little bit of a fuss. But Gen 2 field strip, super easy on this Bonafide. It has this tab right here, slide up, push forward. The knife comes apart into 3 pieces. You've got ball bearings in the pivot. Those are retained so they don't go flying anywhere. Very easy to clean, very easy to lube if you need to, and then put it back together. Exactly the opposite motions, and look at that. Still centered really nicely. We'll get it in the camera over there. That's it. I mean, that is that's the raison d'etre, right? Raison d'etre. Wait, that's a beer.
What's raisins got to do with it?
I wish Dogfish Head would bottle raison d'etre again. Make it happen, internet. But that's why these knives exist. Aluminum handles here. They look pretty cool. You've got a little bit of kind of mottled texture here, almost echoing some natural materials, but it looks pretty nice. And the blade steel here, what's this guy using? D2 in this case, actually. So you do get some decent blade steel at least at that $100 price point. But again, if you're looking for more edge retention, look elsewhere. But for the reasons you asked this question, definitely want to check these guys out. All right, next question comes from Sam Reinhart. Can you suggest an easy to open and close pocket knife for an 86-year-old who can no longer open his old school slip joint? I just tried the Spyderco Roadie and he can open it but can't close it. Thanks. Sure, if the traditional slip joint mechanism is just a bit too hard to operate, go with something like the detent joint knives out there, or the detent action, or double detents. You hear a few different names floating around, but I think detent joint really describes it the best because it is a non-locking knife, and you can get it on a knife like this, which is the Civivi Appalachian Drifter. It comes in about $83, or Appalachian Drifter if I want to be a little more appropriate. This is a non-locking knife, but instead of a leaf spring on the back like a traditional slip joint, you have that bar on the inside with a detent ball in it that gives you a little bit of retention there. It's not nearly as strong of a spring towards the back as a traditional leaf spring. So hopefully that is just enough so that your old man will be able to close that no problem. The flip side of that, actually, speaking of flip side, this guy can be opened easily two-handed, but you've also got that small flipper tab there. which is something you can't really do on a traditional slip joint. But one thing to be careful with on this style of knife in general is if you're doing piercing with it, there's not a whole heck of a lot holding the blade open. So you do have to be careful when you're going in for some of those piercing cuts. If it's just most day-to-day stuff, light box opening, maybe some light package opening, letter opening, that sort of thing, string, a little bit of food, maybe cutting a piece of fruit, definitely good enough. What's nice about here, speaking about, with the previous knife, we were talking about better blade steels being available in that price range. 83 bucks, you've got an S35 VN blade on this guy. So really nice edge retention, nice contoured micarta on this guy, pocket clip, deep carry, and a lanyard attachment point there if he likes to put something like that on it. So check that guy out, might do what you need. All right, next question is from Friedrich Bessel. How important is stainless steel to a survival knife? I would say it depends mostly on your comfort level. More importantly, more important than yes, it should be stainless, or yes, it shouldn't be, or no, it shouldn't be stainless, is knowing the advantages of each. Because a stainless steel and a carbon steel and a survival knife each has a different kind of raison d'etre. There's different reasons to be holding them or to be using them. So I've got an SE4 here, S35 VN, American made, just over 150 right now. Solid knife, and I really like the new contoured scales on the newer SE4s as well. Now, what a stainless, the advantages in a survival scenario is typically compared to a comparably priced carbon steel, the edge will last longer. So you're not going to have to worry as much about having to sharpen in the field, especially if you're having to deal with improvised sharpening methods. Flip side of that, if you do get to the point where you have to sharpen it, it will be more difficult to maintain. But you're not going to have to worry about rust as much. So that side of the maintenance coin goes to the stainless as well. One thing that you will typically be giving up though on a stainless steeled, any knife versus carbon steel, is they're not going to be as tough. And it depends on where you rank that in your personal hierarchy of what's most important. Me personally, I tend to think toughness in a hard use survival knife is at least as high as edge retention, if not more so. And I know how to sharpen. Usually I've got sharpening methods with me when I head out into the woods, onto the trail, whatever. So I'm not so much worried about not being able to sharpen a knife. But then again, also as you get into the real high-end spectrum of like powder metallurgy non-stainless steels with a lot of toughness, you're getting a lot of edge retention too. So in answer to your question, how important is it? All depends on you, man. Just know what you're getting into when you pick which one's going to be right for you. All right, next question is from MP. It says, I've been wanting to purchase a boning knife ever since you did the turkey carving video a few years back. You used a Wusthof knife with a trailing blade. Here it is, the curving boning knife, I think they call it. Yes, the curving boning knife. Can't even say that right. Curving boning knife.
Good job.
6-inch blade, comes in about 120 bucks, nice and classy. And I really like the way these work as a boning knife, especially when you're doing stuff like turkey carving. All that upswept belly means they slice really well. Let's get back to your question. I was going to get that one, but then I saw the Benchmade Meatcrafter, which I have right here as well. Since you are an expert around the kitchen and handled both, do you have any recommendations? Thank you. Here we go. Surprisingly similar blade lengths and profiles there. Actually very, very close indeed. Let me lay the edges themselves. Pretty close. You're a little straighter on the heel here with the Benchmade. You've got a little bit more curve on the Wusthof there. Difference is kind of academic. I think these are both going to behave almost identically in terms of the cutting profile. Price-wise, the Benchmade is a little bit more expensive, about $136, but you're getting a US-made knife and you're getting CPM 154 particle steel here as well, rather than the simple stainless that Wusthof continues to use on their stuff. It's solid stuff, but it's no CPM 154. I'll say that. In terms of amount of flex, they're about the same, minimal, not super flexy. Of course, you are going to get a much better purchase, I think, on the handle on the Meatcrafter, thanks to the orange rubber overmold there. A lot of grip, feels really good. Nice slicing profile overall. You also get, even though it does cost a little bit more money, in addition to the materials upgrade on the blade steel at least, you also get, we'll call it a mask or a sheath here, no belt attachment hardware. But if you wanted this to live in a drawer in your kitchen, nice to have that as well. So I think the performance winner would definitely be the Meatcrafter. You've got excellent toughness for what you need. You've got a longer lasting edge, but both should slice about the same in terms of the actual feel. But I would say if you're doing anything table side with this knife, if you want to be using it to carve like right onto a plate or something like that, there is something to be said about having the nicer looking Wusthof. So whichever one's more important to you, like if that's a consideration, consider this guy. It's an excellent knife, but the performance buy is definitely the Benchmade. Our next question comes from Ravecoin. I'm looking for a keeper EDC knife that's a little larger than average, as in greater than 3.5 inches, slender frame that'll fit in the same pocket where my large phone sits in, and it has to have a very convenient, snappy lock system to be operated with one hand in a blink of an eye, lock bar or compression perhaps. Price is not an issue. Do you think you can help me? Sure. As far as maybe a crossbar lock version, maybe the Benchmade Crooked River series, you've got a big 4-inch blade there. But I think the one I want to recommend here is the ZT452CF. Comes in about 240 bucks. You've got a 4.1-inch blade, but still a fairly narrow profile overall. Folds up, nice and slim there, as you can see. It doesn't take up much more room in the pocket width-wise than any other folder out there. So provided your pockets are deep enough, it shouldn't impact with the phone that you probably have sitting next to it. And you've got a really nice snappy action here as well. KVT ball bearings, flipper tab, snappy indeed. And you got that zero tolerance quality made in America as well. S35 VN steel, carbon fiber front scale, actually carbon fiber front piece. It's not a scale, there's no liner underneath there. It's just solid piece there. And you've got your titanium on the back with a deep carry pocket clip, and you can reverse that to the other side if you want. You got that nice bit of blade to play around with. Next question is from McCoyan IG. I would like your opinion. My cousin is looking for a replacement for a CRKT Pazoda, which I've got right here. He would like a small, classy knife with similar dimensions that would be used for trimming branches and opening packages. Not exactly the knife I would think of as a branch trimmer per se, but these are cool little knives, about 23 bucks, solidly built with the stainless steel handles. So when thinking of something similar, like stainless steel handles and with a thumb hole for opening, I immediately turned to Spyderco, and there's two here that kind of straddle the line. You didn't say whether you used the mini Pazoda or the full size. This right here is the full size. But I've got two here. The Dragonfly, which is a skosh smaller, and the price on that comes in, where are we here? About $82. But if you think that might be a little too short for your cousin there, you've got the Delica as well, which is just a skosh larger, but it's still a very manageable size, and these are just over $100 right now. Now we do still have the protective plastic on here so we don't scuff the handles, but nice brushed stainless steel, so it has a similar vibe to that Pazoda. You got a little bit more blade to work with on this guy. VG10, just under 3 inches long on the Delica, but under 2.5 inches on that on the Dragonfly. Like I said, either one's really good. Cutting geometry probably a little better on the Dragonfly just for pure slicing because you have the full flat grind. But I don't know, maybe if he's using it for some branch trimming and stuff, he might appreciate the stouter flat saber grind here that you have on this version of the Delica. But solid knives, you get that sub 3-inch blade length, you get plenty of handle to work with, 4-position pocket clip, lock back, very easy to use, and very solid. All right, next question is from Barry McColeman. What's the most expensive knife you own that you use on the regular, as in non-safe queen? Sure thing. I guess the bulk of the folders that I EDC are probably between $100 and $200, ranging a fair bit actually in there. I think for me anyway, that's where I see like the most bang for your buck personally, or at least the, you know, when you get too far beyond that price range, you do have diminishing returns in performance with the materials you're getting. Not always the case, but generally speaking. But you get some really good quality stuff. You can get some really good American-made stuff in that price range, which I appreciate 100%. I do have some gentleman's knives that I carry much more infrequently, grant you, that are more expensive because they're a bit more of a special occasions type of thing. I got, you know, a Ziba MS3 that I really like. I've got a small Sabenza with Cocobolo inlays, or is it Bacote? I can never remember which one I have, but it's a really nice knife. But the knife I use the most out of any of the knives, whether it's EDC or whatever, is actually this kitchen knife right here. It's a custom Big Chris cook's knife, and I've had it for about 5 years, and they were about 400 bucks back when I paid for it. And I got him to build this out for me exactly the way I like it, and I use the heck out of it. Absolutely love this knife. Super thin steel, 10V, so it's got enough toughness to handle the kitchen stuff, but you got a super long lasting edge. And just, you know, the carbide structure in there, getting into the nerdy stuff now, the way it feels when it's cutting through stuff like vegetation or meat is excellent. We have a nice bone paper micarta handle here, and I love paper micarta in the kitchen. It has a nice matte feel to it, but you still get that micarta benefit where it feels a little more secure when it is wet. You get a little bit slightly tacky feel. Partial tang here, which makes the balance on this knife superb. Not handle heavy at all, and expertly seamed together. Some nice red liners there. I will never part with this knife, and I will never feel bad about using a knife this expensive. If you had to buy this knife today, something similar, it would be more. This was before Chris went viral on some of his Blade Sports stuff. This was before he appeared on History Channel's Knife or Death show. Really good guy. If you're going to be at Blade Show in a couple weeks, definitely check him out. Awesome, awesome knife. All right, now we come to the lightning round where I breeze through some more questions a little more quickly. Michael D. Carolus asks, what are your thoughts on D2 for a camping fixed blade? I'm looking at the QSP Bison, but I've never had D2 on a fixed blade. Anything else similar come to mind? All right, so for camping, a camping fixed blade, you have some of the same considerations as a survival knife, because if you're out camping and you head out, you might get into a survival situation. One thing to note about D2 is it is not a perfectly stainless steel. It's kind of a semi-stainless, but it's also never quite been known as being exceptionally tough on the toughness scale. But there's certainly a lot of durable knives out there that have been built with it, especially with some of the thicker bladed ones. The Bison itself is certainly put together really well. We actually featured it in our Best Survival Knives Under $100 video a couple weeks ago. We'll leave a link to that so you can check it out there. But they are put together really well. Me personally, D2 is not where I would look. Again, for me personally, there's plenty of durable stuff out there, but I would prioritize something with a little bit more tougher steel for my personal needs. So hope that helps you out. Unclothed Primate asks, what are some discontinued knives that you would like to see make a comeback? Becker BK5 and the 15, absolutely. But the BK5, would love that knife to come back, but they sold pretty poorly over the course of the years, which is why it got discoed. But I've got my user, but I've only got two backups for my main user, so it'd be awesome if those came back. All right, Yesh3 asks, on the subject of fidget-friendly knives, I'm waiting for the fidget handgun trend. You want a revolver, buddy? Isn't that the original fidget spinner?
I mean, ain't there that scene in Terminator?
Oh yeah, where he's like flipping the lever-action shotgun around?
Yeah.
It's not a handgun, though. He said handgun.
I mean, he's carrying it with one hand.
Hard to argue with that logic. So, next question is from Vince CK. DCA, what's the most underrated / underdog knife and knife company in your opinion? I'll go with company here. Hogue, definitely. They're doing great stuff. Those who know, but they're still kind of a smaller time player in the grand scheme of things. They got a long way to go for like market dominance, but I love what they're doing. Check those guys out. All right, James Harris says the Tenacious would be a great knife to upgrade with the steel aspect to at least M390 and make the model an inch bigger. Well, in terms of an inch bigger Tenacious, Spyderco has the Resilience. I always forget which one's the bigger and which one's the smaller one. But yeah, the Resilience is about an inch longer. Same great features and specs essentially as the Tenacious. So that takes care of that part of things. And while M390 is not on the table right yet, Spyderco did just announce their latest reveal earlier this week, and they've got the Resilience Lightweight with an S35 VN blade. So it's a definite bump up from the 8CR series steel. Not available yet, but we do have them for pre-order at the website. All right, Derek Melberg says, "Hi DCA, I have a knife with an M390 blade that has developed a few small spots of rust on it. What's the best proper way to remove the oxidation doing the least damage to the original finish?" He says, I honestly have no idea how it got some rust spots. No worries there. In all likelihood, it's gonna be just kind of some surface spots, so it should be pretty easy to take care of. But here, just as an example of an M390 knife, I've got a WeKnife 704, comes in about 250 bucks. But in terms of stainless steels getting rust spots, it's right there in the name, essentially. The stainless steels stain less. They're not necessarily stain proof, outside of a very few narrow window of possible steels out there. But easiest way to clean the rust spots off, especially on a steel like this where it's probably just right there on the surface. I really like Barkeeper's Friend. You use the powder, make a little bit of a slurry with it, rub it there with an old toothbrush, and it should clean it right off. And it's pretty non-destructive. You shouldn't really affect your finish too much, if at all. And last but not least, we have our most serious question of the day, which comes from Matt Clark. What pocket knife would Rambo carry? And no oversized cold steel, ha ha. Well, Gil Hibben, who made the knife for the fixed blade for Rambo 3, actually did a Sly Stallone 3, I think called it the Sly 3, a Rambo folding lockback. It was ginormous. We'll see if we can get a picture of that here from his website. So obviously that's the answer. But if that's no good for you and cold steel's no good for you, Half-Breed Large Bush Flipper, 365 bucks, S35 VN, massively thick slabs of titanium, and it weighs about a pound. But it's Sylvester Stallone. He doesn't care how much the knife weighs. He's gonna have no problem lifting that. So, yeah.
I mean, it's Stallone.
Yeah. What more do you want? That's it for today, folks. Let me know what you thought of the answers. If you have your own answers to the questions, love to hear those as well. And, of course, leave your questions below for a chance to have them featured in a future episode. If you want to get your hands on most of these knives, not my Big Chris Custom, that's not going anywhere. But we'll leave links in the description to the rest of these guys, which will take you over to KnifeCenter.com. Make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program while you're at it, because at least you can earn some free money to spend on your next knife when you put your money down on one of these knives today. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.